I'm back, so sometimes my video goes crazy because I am my own video production guy. I'm a software guy. I build software, manage massive systems, but I generally hardware. Played around with hardware a little bit. Sound production and the video stuff that I'm doing now is, you know, necessity is the mother of invention, right? So you have these time periods in human history, which is a very strange phenomenon, where like Jung talks about this too, this collective unconscious, and it sort of springs into action. Like, like calculus, for example, was invented at the same time by Leibniz and I think Descartes, like within a couple years of each other, and they didn't even know about the other word. Weird shit like that happens. It's like we're tapped into some sort of a grid. And I'll get into this with quantum metaphysics and stuff because it seems quite clearly that there is a grid and that we're tapped in it. We can tap into it somehow, and then this energy grid which we can tap into then sort of manifests, takes shape in this physical form, which, as we're told quite specifically, that I've been giving a lot of thought to. It's this other guy that I'm following on TikTok, which is really cool. I think Cosmic Dad or something like that. It's this African guy. I don't even know that he's from Africa. He might be American, but he's of African descent. He's a black guy. He's big and he looks like he's an ancient Egyptian god. In fact, I told him online the other day that I thought he was Ra, so he knows that I'm just as crazy as he is. Anyway, he's got some outrageous stories, but I don't even remember why I was talking about him. But Cosmic Dad, yeah, he's a fascinating guy. He's going through some stuff now. But anyway, he talks a lot about this grid, and he talks about basically the thousand-petaled lotus, which is which is supposed to be the topmost chakra, and where like your consciousness and bliss, such and all that. He talks about his opening in sort of a black hole. Sort of a black hole that sort of, there's a singularity that just explodes, and he becomes this sort of radiating energy. So he's tapped directly into this grid, and I don't even know that there's seems to be a direct parallel between what he saw, because everybody visualizes things differently. That's what people have to understand. Like, the universe communicates to a particular form in a manner that's specific to that form, that resonates with that form, that and the system of yoga and the seven chakras is a very old system, and it's a very accurate system. But you're still talking about energy centers, ultimately chakras. They're called wheels that sit in and up and down the spine. You got to think about the caduceus and the snakes coming up and down the spine to symbolize health, right? So there's that whole energy, the male and the female, coming around. And that sort of, you get these energy centers, the heart chakra and the throat chakra and the third eye. And this thousand-petaled lotus, which he talks pretty specifically about. And it's the same image, by the way, you see on Jesus and all the angels. It's the same symbol. So, and part of where people get lost, and this is part of what I think is part of the message that I'm trying to get out, is like you got to take this religious stuff out. You got to step back, and you got the religion and the God and and the Crusades and colonial. Just relax. Everybody, just stop. Just stop. You got to come to at least an understanding of what's going on here. This is a physical, type of thing that I'm describing. When I talk about metaphysics, I'm talking about the layer of knowledge that's wrapped up on top of, which explains the physics. Because right now we have a major problem in physics. The major problem is we have Einstein relativity, which sits on top of Newtonian physics, okay, which is classical physics, mass, velocity, all that stuff. And then Einstein, energy and mass equivalence and the speed of light and all that. And then we have quantum mechanics, which violates basic Newtonian principles in terms of locality, okay? And this idea of entanglement, and there's all sorts of wave-particle duality, like some strange shit that goes on here. So it's like there's no bridge. A lot of people are looking for, these unified theories, and they're looking at string theory and whatever, and they start pulling things apart. This is part of the problem with this sort of, what I'm gonna talk to about today is this idea of objective realism. So let's get into that. Where does it come from? What does it even mean? What am I talking about? So what's happened as you look at the development of intellectual thought, science, and knowledge since really, the middle of the first millennium BC, where in Far East, and you get all these sort of intellectual traditions, Taoism, Socrates, Plato, Lao Tzu, Confucius, they all sort of crop up around, 400 BCE. It's really strange. And then the Enlightenment is similar. It's sort of all of these minds, this massive rush of revolutionary development that happens in a very short period of time, more or less 100 years. And we're going through one of those now. And that's part of this ascension idea. But you're going to see sort of this massive intellectual, sort of revolutionary quantum leap, okay, to sort of a whole new level of understanding. And we're going through that right now. And I think I'm participating in that, and I think I'm also hopefully going to be able to drive some of that, because there's a couple of pieces that seem just painfully obvious at this point. People just, particularly the academic community, has a really difficult time with. And for the same reasons that you guys don't know my real name. Because I put this stuff out there, people are going to think I'm mad. But I'm not mad. I'm really I have for whatever reason, I know what's going on. Physically, mechanically, energetically, right? So and if you start there with the energy and the consciousness, and not objective realism, which I'm going to talk about, if you just flip the perspective, a lot of shit starts to make sense, and you start to get a sense as to what I think becomes even more relevant and practical and important, is you get a sense as to how you need to conduct your life such that you're in resonance at the highest level of harmony possible for your form. And once you're doing that, as Pythagoras would say, once you're singing the proper song of the universe, your particular song, once you're doing that, you could just take a load off. You could just let go, because you're singing a song. Have trust and faith that things are gonna. But it takes a long time to get there. But you don't have to have a religious experience, is the point that I'm making. You just need to understand the physics of it, the science of it, effectively. If you can understand the science of this quantum metaphysics, whatever it is that you want to call it. That's what I'm going to call it, quantum metaphysics, or metaphysics of awareness, is really the fundamental idea that I ultimately get to. Once you understand that, doors start to open up. But there's a relief. There's this anxiety which is palpable in the population right now, particularly in the West. But I'm in the States. I'm in Florida, actually, and there's like an unrest that you can feel. You can sense it, and it's like people, they know that something's missing, but they just don't have anything to latch onto. So, all right, I'm going to take a brief break, and then I'm going to come back and talk about objective realism. And I have to break up these videos because they're massive. Anyway, but I'll be right back.